We are live.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I used to do this.
Yeah, I will. We just want to say hello and thank you for joining us for this intimate hangout on-air discussion for female entrepreneurs like yourself, aimed at giving you free tips and help on growing your startup today. So I'm privileged to be here and present our session speaker. She's a prominent Silicon Valley leader, founder, and CEO, Miss Ari Horie, Women's Startup Lab. She has been recognized as one of CNN's 10 visionary women, 40 over 40 is women to watch, a woman of influence in Silicon Valley by the SB Business Journal, and an active keynote speaker at leading tech conferences like South by Southwest. So welcome, Ari, and thanks for being here for our crowd. So ladies, we know the numbers. 8 out of 10 startups fail within the first year and a half.
Unfortunate. Yeah.
Right. And even harsher than that, only 15% or so of the US-based startups actually are receiving funding within this last 8 years as a female founder. And only 7% of VC funding went to startups led by a CEO. So Ari's here. She wanted to truly speak to you directly about funding, about what it's like to go beyond funding, and how to grow your startup as an entrepreneur. So we'll jump right in. Okay?
Hi.
Wonderful.
Right. So thank you very much for taking your time. Happy Friday. I hope some of you had a really good party yesterday. It was a green day in America.
St. Patrick's Day. Woo!
So what to say, the funding, beyond funding, one of the things that that Women's Startup Lab talks about is funding doesn't mean that you get funding from VC. We often mesmerize or idealize that unicorn, the startup that it's a big idea, scalable idea, and so on. Those are the type of the business that VC specifically look for. And there's many other ways that we can actually call successful business. And most of accelerator are funded or actually owned and created by VC. So what happened was they only look for those startups that out of all those great idea, great business opportunity, they look for very specific type of startup, okay? And so if your idea fit for that, and then you will be selected to go accelerator that give you fund, right? On the other hand, we Women Startup Lab, our mission and a passion, and many people who comes here, is women entrepreneur to be successful. And sometimes getting fund is actually, rightfully so, from your customer. Getting the money from customer is really, really the right things to do. And when you do that, you also get funding from angel. Angel investor, of course, they want to be wealthy and they want to get a return, but sometimes they invest in a business that usually takes about 10 years or more time to grow, and it's one of the riskiest investment. But people do become an investor, angel investor, and really support because they care about the particular problem in life or business to solve that problem. Versus a VC, and many of you probably know, I don't know all of you what level you are in, but they look for the big picture. So beyond the funding means really, really look at you as a founder. What kind of business do you want that allow you to live the life you want, right? So again, in the VC cases, you need to sell the business, and your business is not where some other company will buy, go IPO sort of stuff, then they're not interested. Other good example of business that is not VC focused is some of the great technology, the clean water or air. And who's gonna pay for that, right? So even if it's a real problem, and it's a big idea, could be big business. But VC is not interested in nurturing that kind of startup that solve that problem. So maybe sometime a government puts up money and solve the problem, like China is trying to solve the air pollution problem. And so with that, when you come to Women's Startup Lab, we talk about what type of a business you want to create. And based on that, our advice for your business to be shaped up and get ready for funding have to be tweaked based on that. So we don't just go for, okay, VC model, but it's like, what do you want to do? And I think that's something, when I started my startup, I didn't know. I didn't know the differences. So I just follow whatever call funding means. When someday, once upon someday, the VC will like me and they give me a validation. Yes, you're granted with your idea. Here's the money. Then I go, oh, I'm saved. I'm finally validated. And then yearn for that acceptance. But the truth is, you're the one who owns it. You're the one who get to decide who you want to marry with. And you should be dating first. That's another story, right?
Great. Well, that sort of goes right in line with understanding certain ideas that a business is based on may position themselves better for a VC or for certain angels or accelerators like ourselves.
Right.
So what are some of the strongest milestones that you feel like certain female founders need to accomplish before they even start trying to seek out that fund?
Well, I think the basic thing you need to ask yourself, we as a founder, okay, so it's like, yeah, we want the money. We're desperate. We really desire that. We want people to get me. I'm the successful one that turned this company around. But I flip it and I really think, if you have 100,000, do you really want to invest it in the first-time entrepreneur that doesn't really have a right background and doesn't even have their customer be in love with them? Would you?
Right.
And so I meet so many of entrepreneur hustling and spending so much time applying many accelerator or meeting with investor asking for money when they don't have customer base or some sort of a revenue to prove that they have a chance to find that market fit. So first the thing is just to get the proof point. As simple as it sounds, it does take time, and you do want to have help. And certainly applying accelerator, all those stuff, let's do it. But you have to be careful as a founder, you're not chasing wrong things, or you are spending too much time for wishful thinking, I'm gonna get funding, and 90% of the time you should be really working toward solving a problem and getting a wooing from your customer and being compensated or getting validation by generating a revenue. Now, I just want to separate. It is okay to engage with the investor early on to say, look, I'm not here to talk about funding, and you better mean it. Because, if you're early and asking for money, you're only wasting their time and send a wrong signal, right? You don't know what it takes. Do you even know, the diligence that they do? You need to be prepared. So go ahead to spend the time meeting an investor and get to know them, get advising if they're willing to do that. Start early on building relationships is important, but make sure you're not spending no more than 20% of your time networking. Early stage used to be really building a company.
Right. You brought up something really important, which is preparation. And I think a lot of founders want to know maybe what percentage of the time that they're spending on themselves and their companies should they be dedicating in order to make their pitch and their funding success very natural and achieve the best.
Right. You as a CEO, you are the biggest badass billboard. That's what you have to do. Like, you're walking around and people is like, wow, I'm really, really impressed. And many of us are just geeky furball or introverted and trying to become extroverted, and it's hard. Because you have this passion and that you want to create this startup that's making a difference. But unfortunately or not fortunately, you're the one who have to be out there. So yes, you do need to spend the time building your company, but equally, you have to pay attention to you. And many people forget that they throw themselves out every single dollar for the product, and we don't spend enough time investing in ourselves, invested in founder yourself. It's really, really important, and I think that's the key message that Women Startup Lab has is success, of course, come from having a product or service that people pay, but 90%, really decision and all the success come from you. And there's actually quite a bit of science behind how you behave, how you talk, how you make a decision, right? All that. It's you as a CEO, how you can be effective. And just because people think working hard and passionate will eventually get there, but we at Women Startup Lab, we bring people who has been building startup and tell you what VC looks for, what investor looks for, as well as we have classes to prepare you to have this charismatic presence. How would you present yourself? And especially being a female entrepreneur, we can argue all we want how the world is not fair, but there's unconscious bias exists, how people see women and they're thinking unconsciously. Unfortunately, there's a bias toward the Black people, and then they think, are you sure, can you really code? And people don't recognize it, but there's challenges. And I'm being an Asian woman, maybe I might have a more bias that I have to deal with other, American people. Who knows? But the point is, there's a lot you can do because you're going to be a billboard. Right. And interesting enough, Women Startup Lab bring a lot of professionals to work on the founder skill. That includes pitches, creating a powerful storytelling presentation. Talk about how would you negotiate, how would you have a powerful enrolling skill sets, because hey, you as a startup, you don't have money. Right. You don't have money. So in order for you to make success, it becomes you as a founder, how you're going to negotiate and pull people in. It's like, I use this story, building a startup is like going up on top of the Kilimanjaro in 3 days and literally wearing a hoodies and sandal, wrong clothes, and create a unicorn on your way going up there. So more than 90% of a startup fails. And so being a startup founder, you've been expected to go up on a Kilimanjaro with very little resources and being expected to do impossible in such a short period of time, right? And why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you invest in yourself? Why wouldn't you go to the places that have resources that give you the jet fuel high heel and a backpack that have an uber beautiful lipstick but has a nutrients in it. But it's like something special that's suited for women, right? So that your chance is higher to succeed. And it just kind of expanding on that, people do say that being a great entrepreneur is not something you can learn, right? And there's some quality that you already have, but there's certainly a lot of things that the first-time entrepreneur wish they knew when they were early on. Right. And we Women Startup Lab bring over 50 professionals, serial entrepreneurs, the investors who became our instructors, that specifically come to our program, being interested in meeting you and see how they can help you. And consider going up at the top of the Kilimanjaro by yourself, because you're that hardcore bootstrapped founder, or actually going up there, it's still hard, right? Climbing up, right. But you actually have 50 other peer-to-peer support and other female entrepreneurs singing a song together. When you fall, they pick you up. They tell you, oops, I think storm's coming, buckle up. And, it's not going to be fair. It's going to be hard, but, just to make sure you change your shoes, right? Like, you want other people to tell you some of the mistake you can easily avoid. So that's one thing that I know often people hesitant about going into our program, paid program, but just the amount of its time that you shorten by just going around figuring out, making a mistake, it's just priceless. I just really encourage people to, go to battle with a smart mind.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think a lot of founders quite frequently are facing these trials and tribulations, and it's nice to have people you can depend on for that support. Right. So along that that thought process, what have you as a CEO either experienced or witnessed from people who have came through the program that have had these strong difficulties, and how did they accomplish and conquer?
Yeah, I would love to give you some examples. So I had a founder who's been in startup for about a year and a half, and she came in and said, I'm awesome. So I'm awesome, but nobody knows me, and my company doing really, really well. We actually have a 2 corporate account, but I am so lonely, and I came here. So this is a time when we had a lot of meetup meetings, so she wasn't in the program yet. And she came into, eventually she joined our program, and during the program, because we always say we're killing it, doing well, and at some point she just, actually, I'm just like, I have a huge corporate meeting tomorrow, corporate partnership. And she said, I've done this, I've done this. And one of the founders said, tell me more. And well, this I prepare. I was like, no, you're thinking completely wrong. I did this and I closed the deal. So tomorrow we're going to spend 3 hours going to reverse everything you've written in your presentation. You should really go in thinking that you're the one who's going to save their ass. And you're going there saying, we are small, we can do these things, and 1/10 of the cost, and this is what we can do for you. This is the gift you have. You need to talk like that, not like, oh, corporate, could you please, have us be your one of the service. And with that, she became so confident, so powerful, and she nailed it. Usually those contract negotiation takes about 6 months with a corporate, if you're lucky. She ended up closing it in 3 months because they want her so much. She's one of very successful entrepreneur. Got invested by Jason, by founder of the launch, and she's one of the really hot investor. So she's been successful since then. Other time is founder said, I got really big pitch, investor pitch opportunity, and one of the instructors said, okay, we're going to spend 3 hours, groom it up, and you're ready to go, and I'm going to go in the meeting with you. So some of the instructor advisor became like that. Many of our founder ended up getting some sort of funding from an advisor that actually angel investor, and they also became their advisory board member. The other one is one founder said, hey, I have a merger opportunity. I don't know what to do. And she called me. She was panicking. Meantime, she's excited, but she was afraid. It's like, I haven't done this before. And I said, hold on, let me talk to one of the advisor. And she have actually sold 2 companies, and she have done this kind of before. So she ended up consulting with her. So again, let me talk to her. It was like 10 p.m. They get on the call, they're talking, and next thing, she got involved, and she became CEO of that company. And then brought another company who's making offer, and she managed 2 companies to go at it so that they can increase the price. And this particular company had that, our advisor became CEO and gone through the process and sold the company and the price that they were really happy with. So, it's not something I can say, well, this will happen to you, but just imagine how many hours you go to conferences and meet up and wanting that influential person to first of all pay attention to you, right? Have a chance to sell, and then having the bond. You become among hundreds or 70 or even 20 in the room. When you come to Women's Startup Lab, you are one of 9. And all those advisors, they come here specifically already have a mindset of saying, how can I be helpful for those female entrepreneurs being selected? So amount of money and time and all the awkward network that you have to do run around, and think about those time to being shortened. And then not just anybody who can help you who has opinion, but if you look at our website, and some of the advisor are top-notch advisor. Phil Levin, who was the founder and CEO of Evernote, from Meyer, was a co-founder. Match.com, and also trustee. Mari Baker, she's the president of one of the Women's Coalition study at Stanford, but she was also Baby Center as a president, have turned around several startup, and was a part of the Klein Perkin as well. So she's well connected, but she really knows how things work here. We have a Bill Joes and Bill Rikers, who was a VC, well, who is a VC, and have seen over 25,000 pitches. So they know what is a good pitch. And so that's our instructor, Bill Joes, and a Bill Riker. He's quite known speakers and a trainer, go out there and give a lot of training to startup, what not to do, what to do with an investor. And a guy Kawasaki also support us. So we have amazing people that you wouldn't have, or we will never be able to pay to get their attention. But because of our mission, people continue to come and support. So it's a very special place, and we're privileged to have that community and be able to offer that for you.
No, it's great. And going off of that, what about these advisors are so vital for a founder, not only just in our program, but out there globally?
Yeah, so globally, what do you mean by globally?
Women across the world.
Oh, yeah. So I think a couple of things. When we talk about globally, there's a lot of awesome startup out there, and Silicon Valley is a place where people really seek fund, and just the amount of money sits here is amazing. And so people think coming to Silicon Valley is to give us a higher chance of getting fund. But on the other hand, you're joining the club of the world of the best competing here. So if you are a great founder having a great startup, there is a certain way you wanted to set your company up, corporate structures, and the type of the advisor you have, type of the pitch deck, the type of the pitch you have, the way you network. It's very specific here in the Silicon Valley. Not to say you come from outside, you won't succeed, but the first thing you want to do is really find that network.
Right.
Easily those VC in the Silicon Valley, they look at what is like 15, I think it's like 1,500. The leads comes in, and they only invested in 2.
Right.
per year. So there is a kind of, each VC has a different thesis and the focus, but that's, when you think about it, you really, really, really have to be prepared. And not to scare you, but if there is a help, you want to do that. And, our program and our community is set in a way that you can continue to have that kind of help. Some of you might not know, our program is a year-long program, and it starts off with a 2 weeks program, and where you actually come in, have this intensive living in 2 weeks program, but afterwards, you can continue to come back our place and continue to retake any of our classes, continue to meet and develop a deeper relationship with the advisor, and advisor become your advocate, advisor become your network, and the reference that you can get, it really opens up the door. So you could have a great knowledgeable advisor versus a great advisor who has an influential network in the Silicon Valley. That itself shortens so many months of runaround trying to sell, and hours that you prepare for that meeting, and hours that you follow up to build that repertoire with that person. But if you come in with the right introduction, you got quite a bit of it's not a great word, but save the time and hassle. So when you go to Accelerator, I think that's one of the great things they provide. But what we do differently is we break down the 3 sections of startup success. Often startup success or Accelerator tended to focus on startup number. And I'm not saying that's not important. Obviously, you have to have a great startup product and services, and KPI and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I think really what we have seen and across the board, all said, at the end of the day, that number and revenue, but at the end, we decide to invest because the founder. And you hear that over and over and over. So why not? You will have a program and coaches, personal leadership coaches, entrepreneurship coaches that we have to help you and groom you to be that CEO that bring the money. And then a network. We try to really look at, not organically throw the people at you. Through this, after the program, we continue to be invited to our dinner program to retake it, happy hour. So you're going to continue to have the new advisor relationship, new influencers network. And we want to continue to be there for you. Also within that circle, every time little win, right? Close the deal, have a big customer. I just being featured in a Fortune magazine. There is a community that you can just send out the information. And so being that small, tight community is a huge, huge value. And so you have more time to really focus on your product if we can do some of that heavy lifting off from you.
Right. I really liked all three of those points, but I think number two is really important. The fact about the leader and the CEO being someone that the VCs really investing in more than their startup. So could you give us some ideas about what that entails? Like, what does it really mean to be a leader that can come through for funding, and how does Women's Startup Lab help prepare you to be that?
Let me see if I can give some story. When we have an entrepreneur into our program, they're all really determined, successful, smart, stubborn, whatever. You have to be stubborn. So it's a good choice. Entrepreneur come through, and what we do is we actually have a professional, over 20 years of experience in bringing the leadership out of people, and the way that you usually wouldn't get to. Maybe by the time you're 60, you might have that insight. But so we have a coaches who has this closed door with a really close group of most of 9 entrepreneurs in the room, and we have a conversation about why you even bother to start the startup. 90% of failure. You're sacrificing so much of your time and salary, and even putting a lot of burden on your family and children. As if this sounds really bad, but it's so important to you. And we had an idea, we had a passion, we start riding on the bike, and it's like, let's get going, I'm determined, and you keep falling, and it's like, I'm so passionate, I can do this. And there's something that drove you, because there's a passion, there's a purpose. And sometimes we are, so the way we are, busy life, we're not aware. And we have this interesting session, and it's about something matters to you. No matter what happens, you rise, right? You get up. When you have children screaming and in danger, you have this amazing power that you never knew that you had. But what if you have that kind of power access, knowing what really matters to you? So you might think you're having this startup, an awesome pen, but this pen means so much, because this pen allows people to express their dream. Right. So it's not a pen anymore, right? For the children in the third world, they didn't even have a pen. But this pen, to me, this is humanity's purpose changer, or the dream come true. Like, we want all people to be able to express. So that's why I'm doing this pencil or pen startup. I know it sounds stupid, but you get it. The point is that having that whole conversation of where's the strength of a startup founder come from? And how many of you have heard the investors say, we invest in a founder who's a passion, right? What they're saying is the passion is really the core of a strength. And when you get knocked out, when you've been told no so many times, if you're really clear on passion and even purpose, and you're so clear, suddenly, boom, your startup, the decision you have to make, the difficult decision, you might have to sometimes let go people, or you have to cut back on the money, and you're giving up your house, maybe college fund. And so we have this personal coaching to really build you from inside out. So there's a lot of overwhelming knowledge that comes to you about the startup. You have to do this, like, we do that.
Yeah.
You as a founder, you need to know the numbers and what is your strategy and what is the corporate structure. How do value investor will invested in you. So there's all those knowledge-based stuff that we can help you so that you're actually clean and ready to get investment, right? That's one thing. But you as a founder, how could we minimize any of losing sleep moment, any of those, I don't know what to do, but you're so confident. So out of our program, over 90% of our founders says this was beyond my expectation. So this anonymous survey. So it's what's expected. Yes, this was more than what I expected, but the beyond expectation. So 90% of our graduate for the 2 weeks program have said that. The other thing is they said was this was a life-changing experience. They really realized, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I'd been actually afraid of failure. That's why I was so anal. That's why I was angry at my co-founder. Sometimes we even have a co-founder, with a male co-founder, they come in and say, look, we know we got great product and we are 2 great people, but we're having a conflict. And because I heard you work on the founder, I want to come here and really focus on the product, but I want us to be the best co-founder that we can be. And they left being really solid, and they actually nailed their pitch event. They took first place. But the room was able to sense it when they came in. When they pitched, they didn't have a similar story. There was just a little bit of off balance. People pick those things up, and obviously investors do that. So we do quite a bit of work on the founder, including I mentioned about charismatic presence. There is people who does Miss Beauty pageants, and it's not talk about the being beautiful makeup or hair. We actually dress you up and mess you up, and based on the icon you should portray. Right. So your startup is kind of edgy and, I don't know, social media. Maybe you should have messy hair. I don't know. So it's not about making you pretty, but it really you own your billboard, right? So how could we help you to be the best icon of the startup? So we have a class like that. The way you walk, the way you present. So talk about the voice projection to the hands movement, the way you stand. We even take care of all that, because that's an easy fix that actually give you a lot more confidence yourself, but actually people who's watching you, right? So we do bring those professional in-house. And any other things of you as an entrepreneur, how would you make a decision which investor should go with? Right. Who you fall in love with. How would you test this? He's the right person, she's the right person. My advisor often said that, look, you're getting married and you can divorce, right? And some of you might have that experience. But with investor, you can't really get divorced. They become your boss. And how would you do that, right? And we Women Startup Lab don't give you equity. We're not looking at how can I make money, how can we be investor. That's one way of a relationship. But because we want to be mutually open and be committed for every single founder go through, not the one that I think they're going to have a bet on my money. We actually did not take some of the VC fund. We wanted to be mutual. So we actually do take care of each one of you equally, and really look at what's possible and what's best for you as a founder.
What I really liked about what you said, a lot of this building is this confidence and how you speak, you look, you portray yourself to others. On the other side of the coin, these women are facing a lot of stressors, especially female founders, right? They're dealing with, like you said, their families, the chaos in their lives. And so what are your best tips on helping them through these, stressful times to help train their mindset to be a focused, ambitious entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think what I have heard, and I see this over and over, many of the female entrepreneurs, they're very, very focused and very strong. And not that they're superhuman, but they also have a very tight, closed peer support structure. So they have other founders just going through just like you. That is a safe place that you can say what's really, really going on. Advisor is great, but often they're also judging you in a healthy way. Can she really make it? Can I support her? I want to make sure that my reputation doesn't hurt. So there's a part of their reputation too that side by side with your success. And so advisor could be advising to other investors, and investor could be your advisor. So often, you know, being entrepreneur is a lonely thing. And when you are up against a lot of family stuff, running a family, your partner is complaining, your children is going through challenges at school, having a startup itself is hard, and you have to deal with all that. It's just more extra. Right. And having other women who's gone through, they also figure out. So you have a 10 brain to share how to solve the problem, or you ended up realizing you're worrying about so much for something that other people said, don't worry about it. And then they explain why, and then put in a perspective, and I go, why did I worry so much? You know, and if my kids, just to take the children's as an example, if my kids is feeling lonely because I'm not there, you know, this is how I said that to my children. You know, people has a different example. Right. And, you know, my personal experience, I tell my boys, I have 9 and 12, and they call me, I'm a feminist. These days, they call me activist, so I don't know what that means, but anyway, all positive. That it's really important to live your life that makes you happy. And it doesn't mean that it comes in the cost of other family member to be suffering, but also the responsibility back on the rest of the family to honor that. And especially we as women, we want our children to honor their parents, their partner equally as their own happiness. And that requires not judging from the previous model that we inherited, how the mom should be, how the woman should be. And unfortunately, our boys, our children are still coming from that so-and-so mom does this. And I get that from my boys. And I remind them. And I said, let me tell you, I don't know about other mom, but let me tell you how I can be a wonderful, special mom for you. And just turn around the conversation. And that's where I think at the Women's Startup Lab, every single founder leave with this profound awareness about their power is, at the end of the day, you are the one who has that uniqueness, and how could we emphasize your strength out there? And having that ownership of my happiness, my success is something I define, not world to say, this is how it should be. And if you can get the money from Silicon Valley, because whatever the article might say is a boys club, then go to a place and wear the chicken Silicon Valley approved trained female entrepreneur. and then just to go to other places, say, hey, the rest of the founder here are just great here in this city, but I came and I have this network from Silicon Valley. Let me tell you, you should invest in me. So really, you have to be creative. You have to look at how unique you are and how can you make yourself unique, so that you might not fall into those typical hoodie or typical female entrepreneur story, an unsuccessful story, but you can create your story and find a place that you can be the most unique one. And let me give you some examples. Some of the female entrepreneurs who came to us and then they went back and boom, they get funding because in their region there was money. They wanted to invest in women, and when you came back, that gave them that much confidence, so they got investment. Other founders said, okay, I'm done with the Silicon Valley. I'm going to go to Los Angeles. I'm going to go to New York. And they had more support, and they became a more hot startup founder because she got so much knowledge, and a network from Silicon Valley made her that much hot startup in that region. So, when you talk about the global too, you might live out there, but don't hesitate to come here and start the knowledge, global thinking, and big network early on. And you can go back, and then now you're having, 50, 60, 100 people now thinking about you, knowing you. And that's an early investment that continue to grow as long as you keep a relationship going.
Exactly. That's amazing. What we want to know possibly is, why are you doing this? Obviously, we know women are having a hard time getting funding. Women have had a hard time in a lot of things, in a lot of areas. But why Women Startup Lab? What are you doing to combat this ecosystem where women are stifled?
Yeah, I mean, the business world are built naturally by men, right? So it's a male model. So men tended to be more masculine style leadership that we tended to see, and women succeed by collaborating. And those women who can be like that masculine style tend to do very well in the past. And more people realize, I'm exhausted. I don't want to be like that. If I have to be like that, I don't want to be executive. I don't want to be an asshole like that, or sorry for the language, beat me out. And so going back to why women, now that with all the technology and the connectivity, women can actually start the business from home, or from home to big business. And people might take a little longer. People might start small. People might start thinking, oh, I never get funding. But the truth is, starting a business is so much easier. Finding your customers so much easier than before. I gave a lot more opportunity for women to become an entrepreneur. That's one.
Right.
Why Women Startup Lab? Because every single human being came out of us. We created them.
Yeah.
No, and then half of the population is a woman. And I personally noticed when I was a full-time mom, some point in my life, so many tedious work are so manual. I'm thinking, God's sake, Silicon Valley, and we're doing everything so manual. And I knew easy technology can be solved, but nobody, the woman's voice wasn't reflected in production design and in engineering. And so the product was very much focused on men or business people, but huge market like, mothers and children, edutech and family tech, and all that was kind of left behind. So I knew, gosh, what happened, the senior tech, right? Now people talking about it, but like little technology that we could bring in, it really alters people's life. And so I simply felt that we, as a part of the world, we need to have our voices there. And why Women Startup Lab? Because we need to be out there. Why not us? We have to be out there to create a different type of the business and have a voice in it. And for our next generation, I want them to just go out there and be able to do whatever they can, not being fighting and having conversation about unconscious bias and all that. So for me, having more female entrepreneurs out there succeeding, and our children seeing so many powerful female leaders, I think that will start shift a lot of things. So that's one thing. The other part that I want to add is there's a lot of conversation about why funding is not going to women. And therefore, let's create a fund. That makes sense, right? But at the end of the day, there's a triangle of all those entrepreneurs who's making it to getting up the top. Every phase, less than 3 years, most of the entrepreneur, like close to 80% or so, the entrepreneur give up their startup, right? So those who make it toward the top, they become investable. They're attractive, profitable, still early stage. And if you become an investor and you make a fund, you only want to invest it in those people who made it.
Right.
And the truth is, so many women are not still making out here. And more women's coming. So yay to this couple of years and getting a lot of attention. But again, they're all going out there and trying to build the company. And before they even get to the funding stage, with all those big funds creating and saying, oh, okay, this is a women's fund, come over. But everybody competing for the same people who's make it on the top, let's say 5% of people. And I don't think that's solving some problem. You make it, there's more money, that's great. But nobody's doing anything underneath, right? More women just struggling by themselves and giving up because they're still trying to be a family person. They're trying to still have a healthy food and family. And the whole lifestyle culture, we haven't shifted. And so women's wearing a lot of a responsibility and expectation of running a company, and then their time are taken away. So it's harder, like less time. That's one thing. And then let's say you don't have kids, right? But still, when you get together with your friends, do you really talk about stock and business and, all the time? My case is I've noticed many times when women get together, even if you are hardcore startup founder, maybe you also talk about, how's your children? Yeah. And if you talk too much about startup, even though it's all in your head, people say, well, you talk too much about business, right? And God doesn't say that. They build on it, and they tell you, I know more about it, how we can create a business, and they bond through those conversations. So they have more of a playground that allow them to continue to create a bond, but become a better business person. And then they have a partner that they create to get the business deal done. And when you come to women, we just don't have that culture. So we want to be the one that brings the resources, education. We tell you so you're not figuring out as much as possible, and so that you can accelerate your startup faster, less mistake, and bring powerful people for you. So we hope to have a more funnel of women getting to the point of funding stage. Yes. So that's what I want to see, more of us out there succeeding.
That's a strong point, though, and something that Women's Startup Lab does enable is bringing this vast amount of women founders together. So it's amazing.
And Erika has like sisters. How many sisters? 8 sisters? I'm just kidding.
3.
So yes, you also have a passion for your sister. That's why you really talk about women empowerment as well.
Definitely. Helping our next
generation.
You're
wondering who she is. She's awesome.
But along those lines, other than the female focus, what makes Women's Startup Lab a different type of accelerator?
So we're not VC fund. We really want to have you be the best startup founder, and so work on the network, founder capacity, and startup performance. So one of the core differentiation is we really continue to support your vision, whether it's for VC route of funding you're looking at, or you never want to take money and you just want to be just awesome startup a founder and never take funding investment, then so be it, and then we will help you to have that kind of strategy. So one of the differences is founder focus, 1. 2, we look at the long-term relationship and long-term success. So our measurement is not measured by how much funding or IPO only, but how many of our founders continue to stay in the business. And if they pivot or they quit, we've seen this among the founders too, they start joining other founders. So they continue to play this strong leadership role and building a business. And so we would like to see more of women continue to succeed, which means we want to continue to support you beyond the program. So that's something we do. And the other part, we can talk about the fund. So let me just quickly explain how most of Accelerator works. When we call ourselves Accelerator, because we truly believe we can accelerate your business, we can make you successful. That's what we're committed, and that's what we see from the founder who leaves our program and continue to stay. But word accelerator here, most of the time it associated with you giving me money. And I hear some of the founders said, well, other accelerator give me free money, And I said, please don't say free money, honey. There's no such a thing as free money. I wish that's the case, but what they do is they are interested in your idea and invested in you, so it's great. So they give you, let's say, 100,000, right? And you get a cash because let's say you need that, right? 100,000, and then what happened is you give equity to them, right? Fair game. So let's say you give 3% to 12%, varies the range. And so you actually, let's say you're a year and a half or so company, your valuation, the company is maybe $1 million or up to 3 million sort of stuff. So you're getting 100,000, let's say you gave 8%, you paying to buy that cash with your equity is actually costing you a couple $100,000. Right? So that's a lot of money. But hey, when companies are small, you're not making money. Hey, you're not valuable yet. So my advisor said, well, you're getting nothing from nothing is nothing. So yes, it's a lot of money, but yeah, we have to stay humble. But that's what it is, the calculation. And on top of it, what most of the people don't realize, the accelerator do take the operational costs. And so you get 100,000 and then you give an equity, and on top of it, they usually charge a $25,000 to $40,000 operation fee. They call it operation fee, but it's a tuition fee or office fee, whatever, they call it different things. So 100,000, you take, let's say, 45,000, they actually do pay, right? They have an office and people, and they have people working there. People have to get paid. So usually 25 to 45, but that's what I've seen. And so you actually gave that percentage, and actual cash you ended up getting is 55,000. So that's the kind of scenario. Now, depends on where this money comes from, the government or city. And sometimes they don't charge. The office could be free. There's a different variation of it. But I just want to make sure that you as a founder never think that you go to accelerator, you're getting free money because you're giving equity, or you get the cash, but they'll deduct some operational costs to take. So when you look at that, many of the savvy entrepreneurs will come to us and said, 10,000, you're not taking any equity. It's like, no, we're not. It's like, that's cheap. Let me pay. So our fee is a year program with a 2 weeks intense live-in program here in the Silicon Valley. Is a $10,000. And that includes housing. So if some of you, how expensive Silicon Valley trying to stay, close to half or 1/3 it goes away if you stay here a month. So with our program, you can actually stay, including a house, you can stay here for a month. So you do the 2 weeks program, and you can manage your schedule. You can stay additional 2 weeks to continue to fine-tune your strategy, meeting an advisor. So that's all included. We also understand that certainly the cash is really, really tight. And we encourage you to get separate fund. So, go to friends and family, because this is an opportunity. It's about you, lifelong commitment from a group of people that you have probably this opportunity to meet. And that $10,000 include, a year program plus you as an entrepreneur, don't let money to prevent you to get what you want. Start thinking about how can I get money so I can get what I want. So if you're not convinced about our program totally, we can have a separate conversation about that. But you realize the value of the program, us or anything, right? It doesn't just have to be Women Startup Lab. You as an entrepreneur, don't let ever money to just stop you. Keep thinking, how can I get more money so I can do more things? So that's why you're trying to get funding to build the company. But also don't forget to get the money to make sure that you're the one who can be the best you can be to build the company, build the product, and attract amazing investor and advisor. So that's what I have to say about that. 10K is cash that's done with. It's not all those expensive stuff that happen behind the scene. The other thing is, financing. So some people said, gosh, I really, really want to be in. So what we do is you can pay up to $5,000, and the rest of $5,000 can be financed. And so that's one thing. And some cases we have several angels and corporate partners that said we're interested in supporting a female entrepreneur, and here's the money, and please use as a scholarship for the startup that are XYZ. So it could be, let's say, fintech or the technology that focus on the food industry, things like that. So we have those, but that's a limited right now. We hope to have more of those, and we hope when you become successful, you create a scholarship fund at Women's Startup Lab, so you actually give back. Because sometime at the early on, can you imagine if you have that early on, somebody can really lift you, and then you can actually avoid a mistake, and then you can be successful getting to actually fundable position by knowing exactly the strategy with the brightest mind. You know, that's a gift that all of us benefits, having more women out there succeeding. Yeah.
I agree. And I think it's also important to note that they get over 120 hours of this coaching workshops from over 40 plus advisors here in Silicon Valley. In addition to that, our cohorts are kept very small, and it's something that's very different than a lot of the traditional accelerators.
Yeah, that's true. So an accelerator of VC, right? And some of you know this, that they're looking at about 7 to 8 years time, they will hit the jackpot. One of the company actually do really well, IPO and so on. That one company will pay off all the expenses. And so that's pretty risky, and they know the failure rate is over like 90%. That's normal in the VC world. So what they do is it's numbers game. They say this numbers game. So they want to have as many startups as possible to go through their system, to look through and really find the one that maybe they can help, maybe they can really tweak, but they get to know. So that's their process. And that's why you see so many other accelerator takes many entrepreneurs into their batch. So I don't know the number for Y Combinator 500, but I think they were around the 60, 70. So you become one of, let's say, 70, right? So because that's what they're supposed to do. And I will still highly recommend going through those accelerators because they provide something different. Their brand, network, exposure, just attractive more investor. So go for it. But you need to know as a founder what's the differences. Our case is, it's really, really important to help you from early on. Your strategy is solid. So we also bring all those advisors that spends those customized one-on-one attention. So maximum is 9. And if we ended up, we have a capacity to take more, but we will never go over 9. Because that's, we call magic 9, and we keep that intimacy.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, great. Our time is almost up, so I just wanted to see if you had anything else you'd like to share with our viewers.
Oh, yeah. So our next program is coming up in April 17, and we have filled up our position, but we have a few. And as a matter of fact, tomorrow we have an advisory committee who actually goes through all those applications and select the one that we would like to schedule interview and accept. So that's tomorrow night. We have that. So if you're interested, I highly recommend fill in the application and turn it in. And if you have a contact information, contact that Women's Startup Lab. Even write personal notes, say, hey, can you take a look at my application? Because if we fill that spot, and you know, your chances for the next one. So highly recommend applying soon before it fills up. We also have a capacity limitation for housing. So if you miss that, then we need to send you to other place, which we will hate to do that. So if you really like it, you know, it's better to act now. And on top of some of you said, oh, okay, April 14, 2 weeks program, I can't do that. Then that case is you can still turn in application. And if we like you, you can actually put $1,000 deposit for that to save the spot for the upcoming program after April, which is June. So, you know, I hope this is something you're inspired. And we will love to continue to have a conversation with you. co-founder, your advisor. We're happy to have any answer for any question you have. So thank you so much for spending your Friday, and I hope we made you laugh for our goofy joke.
Thank you so much. Just a reminder, our next program will be April 17th. If you can get to womenstartuplab.com, click apply, and we look forward to chatting with you soon. So thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.